anti-government rally by a predominantly Chinese crowd calling for political reforms and the resignation of Prime Minister Mr. Najib Razak. And a counter-gathering by Malay ultra-nationalists to remind the non-Malays who are the real masters of the land. More than 50 years after independence, race relations in Malaysia are still on shaky ground. Is Prime Minister Najib pandering to the Malay community to shore up a weakening position, falling back on the ethnic card to save himself, his party and the government? On the 30th of August 2015, on the eve of Malaysia's Independence Day, an electoral reform group, Bersih, staged a massive rally in the capital Kuala Lumpur. Amongst others, rally organisers were calling for institutional reforms to promote greater transparency and accountability in government. They are also demanding the resignation of Prime Minister Najib Razak, who is battling graft allegations and charges of financial mismanagement. But on the 16th of September, Malaysia Day, Malay ultra-nationalists clad in red t-shirts, the colour of the ruling party UMNO, held their own Malay Solidarity rally, precisely to counter the Bersih protest and restore the dignity of the Malays. They say the Bersih rally was politically engineered by the Chinese-based party, the Democratic Action Party or the DAP, to hurl insults at Malaysia's largest ethnic group and its leaders.
Mereka menghina rukun negara. Mereka menghina perlembagaan negara. Mereka menghina raja-raja Melayu. Mereka hina orang Melayu. Mereka menghina pemimpin kita. Mereka menghina Perdana Menteri kita, Datuk Seri Najib. Kalau tak suka, tak mengapa. Tapi jangan pijak gambar Perdana Menteri kita. Jangan pijak gambar Perdana Menteri kita. Beliau Perdana Menteri untuk seluruh rakyat Malaysia.
Although the gathering was intended to show support for the embattled Prime Minister to maintain his grip on power, it became a racially charged gathering, marred by incendiary remarks, racial slurs, and purportedly seditious slogans. Rally organisers also took the opportunity to reassert Malay dominance in multi-racial Malaysia and warned ethnic non-Malays not to challenge their special position.
Bila sekali orang Melayu telah bersatu dan naik angin kerana dihina, dipijak, sehingga apa yang telah termaktub di dalam perlembagaan yang kita kongsi selama ini cuba dipertikaikan, ini adalah sebahagian daripada apa yang ingin orang Melayu tunjukkan. Jangan sekali-kali menghina dan ingin mengambil hak kami.
That, however, was not the main intention of the Bersih rally. Rally organizer Maria Chin Abdullah has made it clear the Bersih 4.0 rally was never intended to be racist in nature. It had specific objectives, those of pushing for democratic reforms and the resignation of Prime Minister Mr. Najib Razak.
We are very clear we had 5 demands, which is actually asking for free and fair elections, clean government, democratic parliament, right to dissent, and also save the economy. So our agenda is there, and it has never been about race. It is only the leaders that have actually spin our whole agenda and racialize it, which is disappointing.
Bersih has also apologized for the acts of some of the rally participants who trod on pictures of the Prime Minister and is appealing to Malaysians to look at the bigger picture.
That action is not acceptable, definitely. It's rude, it hurts people feeling, but it's not a crime. So therefore, as well as burning people's effigies, which they did the day before, the red shirt rally, or pouring red paint over people's effigies. Those kind of actions are definitely not acceptable, but they are not a crime, and you shouldn't really use that as an excuse to actually retaliate. Because if you want to retaliate, you want to criticize Bersih for, then criticize on our agenda.
It's very interesting to look at the demands of the Bersih: free and fair election, freedom of media and what's not. They have nothing to do with racial issues at all. Nothing to do with Chinese thingy. I mean, they are all about good governance, about people's rights, about accountability.
Many Malays had also distanced themselves from the rally. Based on polls conducted by Merdeka Centre, only 24% of Malays supported the rally, while 53% were against.
The reasons for those who support mainly were to show Malay pride and the strength of the Malay solidarity with their leadership and so on. And those that didn't support it cited, I think, two major concerns. Number one was the fear that it will descend into violence and chaos, and number two, that it affects the ethnic peace that we continue to enjoy here in Malaysia.
Most Malaysians, they don't buy in, they don't really subscribe to these racial things that are being instigated by certain parties. I mean, the majority of Malaysians really looking forward for a better united Malaysian despite of races and ethnicities. Actually, the issue is not about race. The issue is about Najib should be more transparent. That's what majority of people want.
Although Mr. Najib did not officially endorse the Red Shirt March, he also did not stop UMNO members from taking part in the gathering. 2 days later, however, he took to the stage to defend the rally and congratulated the participants on a peaceful gathering, insisting that there was no racism involved.
Kita menghormati kaum-kaum lain, tapi jangan lupa orang Melayu juga ada perasaannya. Orang Melayu juga ada hatnya.
At the macro level, there is a need to show that the Prime Minister and the ruling party does have real support and has the ability to show this. Second, within his own political elite and the political structure that he depends on, he has to show that he is not weak and that the party is also not weak and is able to respond to what is perceived to be a challenge to the strength and also the ability to command the public.
This group of people would be his core supporters, so he could not possibly go against them publicly. And in the situation that he's in, when you have such a huge demonstration calling for his resignation, he could not possibly afford to not pander to this extreme group at the same time.
Malaysia Day was meant to be a day to celebrate unity and diversity of all Malaysians. But it was hijacked by ultra-nationalists who tried to advance narrow political objectives. If anything, the gathering was nothing more than a front to show that the scandal-stricken Mr. Najib still enjoys the support of party members. But has he gained anything from this event? And how much does he stand to lose as he battles for political survival in an increasingly divided nation?
It's time to scale up with Startup. Startup is back for its third run, this time with boot camps in Indonesia, Myanmar and Singapore. Raise your business's profile through multiple media platforms. Be mentored by industry veterans and gain networking opportunities to secure your seed funding of up to $500,000. So what are you waiting for? Your entrepreneurial journey starts here. Submit your business plans to startup.channelnewsasia.com/join. Brought to you by Deloitte and the following partners.
The ancient Silk Road was a legendary trading route that connected Europe with Asia for more than a millennium. Now modern China is building a new Silk Road. This is China's grand plan, a network of roads, railways, and oil pipelines stretching from China to Europe. It will galvanize China's slowing economy and change the flow of global trade.
It is going to change the map of the world on logistics.
I'm Anthony Morse, and I'm taking an epic journey along China's new Silk Road. I will enter unfamiliar new worlds. Meet the movers and shakers who are building the new Silk Road, and investigate the controversies around China's grand plans.
So do you have freedom to practice your religion here?
The new Silk Road premieres October 7th.
In India's northwestern state of Punjab, there lies a city that houses Sikhism's holiest temple. A shrine that commemorates the love of a father for his son. A walled city with an intricate web of streets forming a shield around the holy centre. This is the city of Amritsar, the 4-century-old spiritual locus of the Sikhs. City Time Traveller Season 2, Saturday at these times, exclusively on Channel News Asia.
One of Prime Minister Najib's key programs upon assuming office in 2009 was his One Malaysia slogan, aimed at achieving national unity and ethnic tolerance. Mr. Najib had staked his fortunes on reforms to speed up growth, increase transparency, while rolling back some policies which had favoured the ethnic Malays. But his ambitions were scuttled by conservative interests within UMNO. Non-Malay voters, on the other hand, deserted the coalition, buoyed by a resurgent opposition led by the charismatic leader Anwar Ibrahim. Ruling Barisan Nasional failed to regain its 2/3 parliamentary majority in the 2013 general election and lost the popular vote.
I think it was obvious already on election night, May 5th, 2013, when he gave his victory speech, which was given in a very depressed mode. And there he talked about a Chinese tsunami, and from that point onwards, I think that the phrase One Malaysia was not used seriously again. And I think, sadly, the phrase One Malaysia will now be remembered for its connection to 1MDB. It turned out that the Chinese had gone even further away from the Barisan Nasional, the ruling coalition. He sort of gave up.
We are in a situation where we have a kind of economic slowdown brought by forces largely out of the control of the government, low commodity prices, low oil prices, and then a slowdown in the country's biggest trading partner, China. All of that affects incomes very directly in the households of many Malaysians. And it also affects the government revenues, which in turn affects their ability to dispense with patronage and also deliver services to the public. You have that. You have an unpopular leadership that is perceived to be affected by various irregularities. You have that. So there's a number of very negative factors at play, which makes it very difficult for any government to overcome. So I think the nice fuzzy feeling of one Malaysia will have to take a back seat.
On top of that, Prime Minister Najib is now facing challenges on several fronts. His vocal critic, former Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, has been relentless in his attacks against him. Mr. Najib is also facing a lawsuit filed by former UMNO leader Anina Saduddin. Anina filed a court case asking the High Court to freeze Mr. Najib's local assets, pending the outcome of a main suit for alleged breach of trust over the $700 million deposited into his personal bank accounts. The U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, or the FBI, has also opened a probe into money laundering allegations related to a sovereign fund overseen by the Prime Minister. Facing increasing pressure, Mr. Najib has turned to the segment whose support he can count on, the ethnic Malays, by resorting to the racial card to stay on top of the political game. But will a clarion call to Malays be enough to save him?
I think it's not about Najib per se. It's about people who's around him who like to stick or who like to playing that racial card in order to continue their survival on the throne. But again, it won't last long, because at the end of the day, when the economy is crumbling, they've started to think about survival. When you're thinking about life and thinking about economy, I don't think racial issues will play a major role anymore.
That's the thing about Malaysian politics. The racial card is actually the main card. That card is always on the table. So it's not like he's playing that card. It's just, this is standard. I think his popularity is down greatly. I remember not long ago that his popularity was always higher than the party's popularity. And today I think it's gone totally the other way. And we could see that quite dramatically in the by-election in Pematang Pau, when after Anwar was jailed and his wife took his place and ran for the by-election, that the Barisan Nasional, Najib's party, which in the 2013 election actually used Najib's portrait all over the place, made sure that his portrait was not put out because he was seen to be that unpopular. And I think with now with 1MDB, his popularity is really hitting rock bottom, and that is what is worrying all leaders like Tun Dr. Mahathir.
With a society split down the middle, can the Prime Minister rely on Malay support alone to ensure victory for the Barisan Nasional coalition at the next general election? Or will it be game over?
This Saturday, a landslide elections victory for Singapore's ruling party. More of the status quo or a good time for policy changes?
More spending on, I think, the social side will continue.
And the US Federal Reserve has backed off from hiking interest rates. Will it stoke bigger problems down the road?
Yeah, there has been a build-up of foreign debt.
Money Mind, Saturday at these times.
The ancient Silk Road was a legendary trading route that connected Europe with Asia. Now modern China is building a new Silk Road. I'm Anthony Morse, and I'm on a journey to find out how the plan can galvanize China's slowing economy. How will the plan impact China's minorities? And how can China convince the world that it is a force for good? The New Silk Road premieres October 7th at 8 p.m. on Channel News Asia.
Next on First Look Asia, scents worn by celebrities and royalty packaged in bottles that are works of art. We chat with French perfumers Em McAuliffe about their creations. And the best of Taiwan street food, join Annalisa's food trail through Taipei on What's Cooking. Plus the latest in news, business and sports. It's all happening on First Look Asia Friday.
bahawa kita tetap boleh bangun. Bangun apabila maruah kita tercabar. Bangun apabila pemimpin-pemimpin kita dihina, dikutuk, dipermalukan. Melayu kata, cukuplah, jangan sesiapa mengulangi perbuatan durjana seperti ini.
Weeks of hostile rhetoric playing on racial difference have left Malaysians uneasy about the direction their country is taking. Ultra-nationalists involved in the recent Red Shirt rally would like to think the current political crisis revolves around the question of the relative status of Malays versus the non-Malays. But a great number of urban Malays from the middle class as well as non-Malays know the current discourse has little to do with race and everything to do with poor governance, corruption and the increasing authoritarianism on the part of the government.
We are at a point in Malaysian history where the Malays are now clearly a majority, and where economics are concerned, they actually do control most of the GLCs. They control the civil service, they control the government, they control parliament. So any argument that they are under threat doesn't really hold water at the moment. We are going to a point where we should concentrate on good governance, good institutions, rule of law and whatnot, instead of always harping on racial rights.
I'm actually not quite surprised, because I feel that he is actually using the red shirt as a distraction. And avoiding the whole agenda, the democratic agenda that Bersih has presented to him. And he is avoiding answering to the 1MDB, the funds that, the loans that we have taken, the 42 billion, plus also the 700 million USD that is in his personal account.
But the alleged evasive strategy is not expected to last much longer as fresh allegations of wrongdoing continue to dog him. An explosive documentary by the Middle Eastern news network Al Jazeera carries the allegation that the murdered Mongolian model Elton Tuya Sharibu was somehow linked to Mr. Najib himself. It's an allegation that he denies.
The Altan Tuya case happened a long time ago. I think most people have already made up their minds whether they want to believe it or disbelieve it. And I think bringing this in right now adds more to the political intrigue, and doesn't, I would say it doesn't add more to the discourse, largely because a lot of what has been surfaced are mostly known and has already been through the court process and so on. So many people have in a sense priced in whatever they think about that case into their perceptions about the PM. So my sense is that the impact is somewhat minimal.
In politics, memory can sometimes be rather short, but I think with this report suddenly coming up, people are reminded of a story that in many minds is not really closed. There's no conclusion to it, and one could see in the documentary it is definitely not closed where Altan Tuya's family is concerned. So in that sense, it does hurt him, but in another sense, it's old story. Yeah, and again, it's back to what are the mechanisms that can get rid of a weak prime minister, as long as he has his party leadership support and the support of the members of parliament of his coalition. There is no way for him. He doesn't have to resign.
But while Mr. Najib may have succeeded in strengthening his position within his party by packing the core leadership with those loyal to him, he may be facing an uphill battle trying to win voter support at the next general election. What might just work in his favour is a divided opposition. The tripartite opposition coalition Pakatan Rakyat fell apart earlier this year, following irreconcilable differences between the DAP and the Islamic party PAS over the introduction of the Islamic penal code known as Hudud. A new opposition alliance that has since emerged has yet to prove its mettle. The newly formed Pakatan Harapan, which consists of jailed opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim's Parti Keadilan Rakyat, the Chinese-based Democratic Action Party, and the Parti Amanat Negara, a breakaway faction of PAS, is seeking to replace the ruling Barisan Nasional in the next election. The question is, will the BN fare much worse with Prime Minister Najib Razak remaining at the helm?
Whether it will get worse or not depends on two principal factors. Number one, what UMNO and Prime Minister Najib does with the current mandate of time that he presently has within this next couple of years. Second is what his opponents in the opposition plan to do, particularly the Malay opposition. We are in the situation right now where the plurality of Malay public especially, are somewhat undecided on which political side to back. Unlike the past where the ruling party has an unassured dominance over the mindsets and support of the Malay electorate, right now the various issues that I mentioned earlier has weighted down on their sentiments, and so a lot of people are undecided.
If UMNO continues the way it's doing under Najib, UMNO will lose power, and of course the coalition will lose power, and so a new solution will have to be found, and we don't know what that solution is. UMNO has to somehow change its image, and that image cannot be changed as long as Najib is there. So that's the battle within UMNO itself at the moment.
In an effort to boost confidence in his leadership, the government has announced that it will inject some $4.6 billion into the equity market to shore up that market. For a country that's already reeling from plunging commodity prices, a currency slump and political scandal, that move is being seen as a step in the right direction. But ultimately, the future survival of the government will depend on its willingness to come clean on issues concerning corruption, transparency and good governance. Continuing to play the ethnic card through street demonstrations will only serve to deepen the ethnic divide and further erode confidence in the leadership.
Prime Minister Najib is under this cloud of intense allegations related to the 1MDB and other related issues. That phase of the political party is challenged now, and he does encounter some resistance, not just from the political opposition, but also within members of the public who want to see those answers to those allegations.